Hi guys, Russ here, Trimporters. Just going to look at electrics. We've got a Vivaro here that's come back to us after it had its cabling run first time round, and now it's had its units installed by another company. We are going to finish up the conversion and terminate all the cabling for the electrics, etc. So I just want to talk about cable protection, cable management, etc. in the next couple of videos, and it's massively important, you know. 240 volt mains cable into your van, you're effectively putting house electrics in your van. You know, 240 volt can kill you. So it's got to be respected, and we'll show you what we do and how we terminate and safely install 240 volt. Similarly, 12 volt can still kill you, and again we'll go through all the safety techniques and management that we use with 12 volt connections. Looking on the internet and social media, I see some scary stuff, you know, that I think there's enough information out there to do safe electric installs on your vehicles. I don't see why people still fail to have good, safe practice with doing electrics. It amazes me. So we'll go through and we'll show you what we do as a company, that we're dealing with customer vans. You know, we can't get it wrong. If you get it wrong, you have the potential to kill somebody, you know, or set a van on fire. It's just a zero risk work ethic that you have to follow with doing electrics. So as I say, there's plenty out there, there's plenty on social media, and hopefully this guide and information helps you better understand what you're working with and the safety involved in it. You know, I can't stress that enough. The safety aspect of working with the electrics is massive. So let's have a look at some tools. So first up, cable cutters. Generally in plier type, this style, with some nasty cutters in the end there. We also use side cutters as well to cut your cable, but these have no trouble cutting any cable. I mean, I've got Arctic Blue 3-core flex here, straight through, clean cut, no problem at all. We will also use these for stripping out our cables to explode the protective sheathing, and we'll expose the cores beneath. Careful not to cut all the way through. If you cut all the way through, or if you cut too far, when you expose, I don't know if we can see this on here, we've actually cut into the sheathing here. So when we pull the sheathing away from, say, this part, you're left with unprotected core coming through. So be careful with cutting your sheathing. Once that's cut, we get down to our smaller, in this case 2.5mm, and then we'll use wire strippers. These wire strippers come in various types. I've got an older, cheaper set here. and the Predators, as I call them. Very good bit of kit. Worth spending the money on a decent set of strippers. You know, throughout your van, there's a lot of termination and a lot of stripping to do. You know, you'll spend £7,000, £2,000 on electricals in your van, but won't spend 15 quid on a decent set of strippers. So, you know, super easy to use. Put your cable in to your desired length you wish to strip, push down, exposes your cable ready for termination. So yeah, good pair of wire strippers. We also use ratchet style terminal crimpers, yellow, blue, red there. That's for the different types of different sizes of terminals that you'll use. Again, cheap enough and well worth the investing in a half decent pair to make sure that your terminals are well crimped. Another one we'll use is a ferrule crimper. If you haven't seen ferrule crimps, they're a sleeve that go over the cable itself, the strands, and when you crimp down, the sleeve crimps down onto the strands, and what I'll show you in another video as well, but it keeps all your strands together. There's none left around, and it's most commonly used for screw terminals, because when you screw, so for example a chock block, we don't use chock block, but as an example, the chock block has a screw that goes through, and as you're screwing down, that screw is separating the strands from your cable. So after you've screwed down on a chock block, you've probably got half or less cables actually secured, screwed down. This tool will keep them all together. Again, I'll show you, so that when a screw goes down, it's clamping all the strands, not just a few that is sprayed around. So, ferrule crimping tool, look it up. It's a fairly decent tool to use. Finally, what we use is this. This is a copper tube terminal tool, crimper, clamper, I suppose. So for this will be used generally with the 10mm square plus cable, so power management cable, leisure battery cable, split charge, DC charger cables, those thicker cables. I'll show you again, of course, but you put your copper tube terminal within, including your cable that's inside. Take a hammer, smash on top, and that will pinch up the terminal, and that will stop the copper coming out. There's also huge plier types that you can use. You can get gas ones, and also you can solder them. We've used this way. It works. It never fails for us. So we're happy to continue this way for the time being. Yeah. Any good electrical store will have any of these tools. So what we'll do, I'll head over and look at some terminals, and look at some cable and some protection management, and we'll go through the whole plethora of electrical items that we work with. So we'll catch up soon. Cheers. Hello, welcome back. We're going to look at terminals. Most cases you'll get 3 colours: reds, blues and yellows. The red cable, the red terminals will be used for cable up to 1.5mm. You know, I'm not going to get 2mm cable through this terminal. It's never going in there, you know. If I try and force that in there, yes, I'll get, I don't know if we can see that. Yes, I'll get a couple of strands through, but look how many have missed. You know, it's just never going to work. So you need to choose your crimp terminal to suit your cable. So in this case, as a general rule, red terminals crimp up to about 1.5mm. Your blue terminals will crimp 2mm to 3mm. Your yellow terminals will crimp 4mm, 6mm. So yeah, I'll get a blue terminal on 2mm cable. Again, it will go in, selecting the middle blue one on my crimper. Crimped down, secure. I wouldn't use a yellow on a 2mm, and I wouldn't use a red on a 2mm, only blue. What we also have are copper tube terminals. These again come in various sizes, various thicknesses. So if I show you here, what we have on the terminal are some numbers. I don't know if we're going to be able to see those. The camera's not the best. So this one reads GC16-6. The 16 stands for the millimetre square cable that you're going to put into the end. So this terminal is suited for 16mm square cable, which is most common on your power circuits, for leisure battery, your split charge or DC charging circuits. This is what you use these connections for. The 6, so GC16-6, the 6 stands for the millimetre size hole you have in the top. So in this case, 1610 gives us a 10mm hole, and 16.8 gives us an 8mm hole. So again, choose your copper tube terminals to suit the application, you know. I don't want to put a 10mm hole terminal onto a 6mm post, you know. I don't want to try and squeeze in a 16mm square cable into a 10mm square terminal, you know. Finally, back to this old boy, ferrule crimping tools. So these are the ferrules. They're a hollow sleeve when you put over your strands of cable. Encapsulates all the strands into one post, and when you crimp down, that's reshaped it to a square with multiple dents and divots within it, so it will not come off. And when you screw down onto it, you're not going to separate strands, only catch half of them, any of that. They're all within there, you know. So ferrule crimping played a big part in car audio originally, from my belief, and it's made its way into the 12-volt electric systems for camper conversions. Superb bits of kit, a huge array of sizes, you know. So again, choose to suit your application. So yeah, that's terminals. Choose the ones that suit your application, you know. 1.5mm in a yellow is never going to work. The same as 4mm trying to fit into a red. It's never going to work. You know. They're cheap. You know, you can buy 100 of these for £5. You know, you're never going to need 100. You can even buy them in packs of 10 from reputable electrical places. I'll give names such as Simply Split Charge and also a 12-volt Planet, for example. Many conversion companies that sell parts will also sell these terminals also. So yeah, choosing your terminals to suit the application is high on the list. So what we'll do now is we're going to have a look at cable protection, and go soon. Cheers. Hello again. Cable protection plays a big part in ours. All our vans are wrapped in split conduit. So it's corrugated plastic with a split all the way down that you can feed your cable through. It comes in various sizes. You can buy it in many lengths, and any good electrical store, wholesaler, online company will sell it. We use it everywhere. It's, if I can show you here, all the cables that we have, that we install, from the end to the beginning of that cable, it will be wrapped in conduit. We don't leave cables exposed where they don't have to be, especially running through metalwork. You see a lot of people that will just run a cable through a hole that they've just cut in their metalwork. You know, that cable going through the hole potentially is rubbing on the metal edges, and what that can potentially do is wear that away and then leave you with exposed cable that can then touch your bodywork, cause you problems. So every cable that we install Gets wrapped in conduit. Super easy to work with. There's a bit of cable here. And it's a case of feeding the cable into the conduit. That's giving you a plastic coating. That's going to take a lot more rubbing through on any metalwork than just having cable. The sheathing will go a lot quicker than that. So yes, plastic conduit. It's not expensive, it's cheap. Every cable that you run through the van, use it. Next up, heat shrink. A couple of variations here. All our terminals, when they're crimped, when they're soldered, when they're spliced, or have you, they will all get heat shrunk. We have various thicknesses. We only work with the two colours: red for life, black for negative, earth, ground, whatever you want to call it. Simple to use, obviously. I'm sure many of you have used it, but I'll just prepare this cable here. So in this example, say I was putting this 4mm square cable to the fridge. So first off, cut our length using the cutters. Choose the length that we want to remove, the sheathing, and that leaves us our exposed cable. Attach our terminal, yellow in this case because it's a 4mm cable. Pop that through. Then we crimp it down on the yellow. It's super secure in there. You can see that. Not coming off anytime soon. Then what we would do is get ourselves some heat shrink. The size of the heat shrink is fairly important. I wouldn't want to use this on 1.5mm cable. You know, this is 4mm and above stuff really. Chop off a piece of heat shrink. Thread this heat shrink over the terminal, and in this case I will put the heat shrink to the top of the terminal. Heat gun, and we'll shrink down so now our terminal has that added protection, added security, you know, less chance of moisture getting up the back side of the terminal that we've crimped. you can take this one step further. So for example, say this is my terminal that I've connected onto the back of my fridge, for example. I mean, 4mm cable you would use for your fridge, and this is the cable that I fed in from my inline fuse from the leisure battery to attach to the fridge. So we can just connect these together, which is fine. You know, that's connected, it's fine, it's strong, it's not going to remove, but you can take it a step further. We can add a piece of sleeve over the terminal, connect them up, feed the sleeve back through, and cover your connection. So when you shrink down, what you have now is your connection covered in heat shrink also. Now in this example, you're putting a fridge into your van, you know. You'd imagine that a fridge is going to be sat inside your van for 5 years, 20 years, you know. They're not something that you're going to have to keep disconnecting, reconnecting, or any of that business. They're kind of a connect once and forget sort of scenario. So adding an extra protection here isn't really causing you much grief. What it is doing is preventing any moisture attacking these terminals at any time. You know, you're in a van at the end of the day, there's moisture. So yeah, heat shrink, great product, well worth investing in the various sizes you can get that suit the application that you're working with. So that pretty much covers cable protection, split conduit, and heat shrink. They're the go-tos. Obviously, adding cable ties, zip ties, to prevent movement of cable is also well worth considering. So yeah, cheers for watching. What we'll do is we'll now go through some various installs that we're going to do on this van, and connections, and show you what we've done befores and afters, etc. You know, because electrics is a big thing and it's not to be messed with, and as I've said before, there's too many examples out there of how not to do it, you know. So it's not a game, it's not a toy. So keep safe and we'll catch you soon. Cheers.